I awoke that morning, minutes before my alarm. I felt slightly groggy, but I didn't exactly feel bad. It was more of a physical exhaustion with a mind ready to take on the day. I stretched and quickly changed into my clothes before heading downstairs with my bag. As I reached the lobby, I stopped and sniffed the sudden new smell in the air. Breakfast? I continued into the dining room to see Diana laying out a plate covered with sliced fruit. On the table were delicious-smelling eggs, toast, bacon, hams, veggies, and juice. I felt my mouth salivate. But then I remembered that it was Diana serving breakfast, and I shook my head. What are you doing?
Ah, you're up. Come. Breakfast. I didn't know what you liked, so I made everything I knew humans ate for this time of day.
I walked over and scanned the table before giggling. Diana raised an eyebrow at me.
And what is so funny?
You didn't make everything breakfast-related. You forgot a couple things.
Like what?
Coffee, pancakes, waffles. Diana looked almost insulted before looking to the table and recounting the plates. I laughed harder, making her glare at me.
I haven't been in the human world long enough to know everything, all right? Unlike the boys, I know little to nothing about what you humans eat in your homes.
At the mention of the boys, I suddenly remembered them. They treated me like a part of their family, caring for me and making sure I was okay beyond anything else. They were servants to me, and I let them go. I let out a sigh at the memory. Little did I know Diana stared at me the entire time. I shook my head and looked to the table, getting an empty plate and filling it with what I wanted before sitting and eating. Diana remained standing, watching me. I felt almost naked under her gaze. So I looked over, pausing my eating. Aren't you going to eat?
I already ate.
What did you eat?
You really wish to know?
Yes. I wanted to know more about demons. I wanted to know more about her. Of course I said yes. Diana stared in surprise at me before smirking a bit, reaching into her cleavage. I watched as she pulled out a small purple vial, popped the cork, and poured a mere couple sipfuls into her palm before recorking the vial and placing it back in her dress. Diana closed her eyes and closed her hand. What was she doing? It was odd to watch, yet at the same time, I was practically at the edge of my seat in curiosity. What was she about to do? Her hand started to open, almost like a blossoming flower, revealed a small, peach-sized fruit. It was purple, almost an enchanting smell to it, made my food seem almost disgusting.
A plant from the abyssal plains. We call it a sweet flower. Would you like to try it?
I want to say yes, but I probably shouldn't. There was no need for me to try it. It was enticing, yes, but I wasn't interested. I sat back and continued to eat my breakfast on my plate. Diana shrugged, peeled open the flesh of the fruit to reveal a blackish, juicy center. She pulled out a perfect slice from it and slipped it into her mouth. I had to admit the smell was practically addicting itself, but I made my choice. Diana ate the fruit, and I ate my breakfast. So, what exactly is it?
It's a fruit, just like how you humans have apples or oranges. It's sweet and full of energy.
I watched as Diana slipped another bite of the fruit into her mouth, before continuing. I had to admit, watching her eat was kind of tantalizing, yet I kept my composure.
It's only grown in my kingdom. Many demons try to take it and plant it outside of my lands. But because of how we treat the fruit, it only grows for us. It's one of the many reasons I have to protect my kingdom at all costs.
How does you being here help protect your kingdom? Diana looked at me with raised eyebrow before turning to me in realization. Did I not know something? Another thing. Great.
The boys didn't tell you that either. Interesting.
What didn't they tell me?
I am expected to wed one of them and join my kingdom with theirs.
The world practically halted at her words. I stared. What? How could that be? You had to marry one of them?
Yes, in order to make sure their ruler didn't ravage my kingdom with his army. I was offered as a bride to his heir, the eldest.
She was to marry James? It made sense. If she was a princess and he was the oldest of the boys, then was a prince ready for marriage. Still, an arranged marriage? Isn't it a little unfair to both of you, though? Diana looked to me, as if she knew I was going to ask what I asked. She then smiled, but for some reason, it hurt to see. She seemed almost sad.
Sad as it may be, it's the reality of the situation. I either have to retrieve the boys and bring them back, or I have to fight the demon lord. And believe me, That is practically an impossible battle.
Diana started to lick her fingers of the fruit juices that remained on her skin, but her eyes became almost distant as she stared at the table beside us. For some reason, I felt bad for her. Eventually, my alarm started going off, reminding me to be ready for Naomi and Suzu. Right, school was a thing. I stood from my chair, grabbed my bag, walking out of the dining room.
And where are you going, might I ask?
I have to go to school.
Ah, I see.
I looked to Diana, feeling that she was up to something. She had her arms crossed, looking to me as if I owed her something. What?
Well, I don't exactly want you to leave this house with the memories you have. I'd be breaking the rules if I allowed that.
But we had a deal. You stay for a day, I keep my memories till you leave. I still have to go to school, though.
Then skip school and stay home.
What?
That, or I go with you.
What? Diana was crazy. To suggest going to my school was practically signing a death wish. Everyone would ask about her. What would I tell everyone? That's crazy.
I can't let you leave this house with those memories unless I'm with you. Rules are rules.
What rules?
The rules of the world, sweetie.
Rules of the world? What was she talking about?
The rules applies to any magical being that lives in the human world. They were established on a day you humans might know as the birth date of Jesus Christ.
Oh, yeah, great. Like, that was an important fucking date. Anyways, ignore my atheism. I'm not an atheist, but... Anyways. Wait, does that mean Christianity is legitimate?
It's a story to some, a religious faith to others. I won't deny or prove a religion exists because that's a human matter. Magical beings, on the other hand, don't pay attention unless they're angels from the world of heaven.
My curiosity was pecking at my mind like a frantic bird. I wanted to know more. Diana was giving me answers, and I wanted to ask more questions. However, I had to go to school. I was conflicted.
Stay, and I'll tell you more of these rules.
And if I go?
Then I take your memories.
I was trapped. There was no way I could bring Diana with me without some repercussions. If she took my memories now, then I'd go to school without remembering anything. However, if I stayed, I could learn more, but I'd miss school. I bit my lip. Did I really want to stay? I could feel my fingers run over my phone and call up Naomi. Without even listening to the phone, I spoke into it. Hey girls, I'm feeling really sick. Don't worry about coming and don't come over. I'm staying home and getting better. I hung up without even acknowledging Naomi or Suzu on the other end. Diana crossed her arms and waited for me to turn to her fully. I threw my bag to the side and looked at Diana, ready to learn more. You're going to tell me everything.
I'll do the best I can.
I walked up the stairs with Diana behind me. I glanced into the dining room to see it already clean. I guess Diana used magic to clean up after us. I continued and wound up walking into my bedroom. I sat on the bed as Diana stood by the balcony window. It was just like last night. So, can I ask anything and you'll answer, right? I can ask anything and you'll answer, right?
I'll give you the best answers I can give.
Knowing Diana, it could have been a white lie. She already had hidden some details, but I was guessing she had her reasons. However, I would need to know more than just details. The rules of the world, what are they?
They are the heart and soul of the human world, created and approved by all 5 worlds on the human date, December 25th.
5 worlds?
In human terms, there is the human world, heaven, purgatory, hell, and the abyss.
What are the rules in this agreement?
These rules dictate the behavior of otherworldly creatures in the human world. Without them, there would be constant war between angels and devils, while the vampires would try and enslave humanity.
Vampires must be purgatory.
Demons are merely the watchers, but often the devils or vampires will try and coax them into joining them.
So angels and vampires exist too?
Yes. Angels are from heaven.
No,
watching over
angels
the
are
human
from
world
purgatory.
with a careful eye. Vampires are from the human world, but pass on to purgatory before rebirth.
I stared at my lap. This was all amazing, yet this wasn't satisfying my curiosity. Did I want to know more? Did I want to know more about demons? This was all a huge deal, and I felt both over and underwhelmed. So these rules have rules over humans. Humans can't know about magic at all?
Correct. Humans, to the angels, need to remain pure and innocent. So they dictated that humans cannot know of the other worlds or of other beings. The rest of us agreed. Only a select few are allowed to know the truth about us.
But that's hardly fair, isn't it?
Well, take a look at yourself. You're barely proficient with magic. Your kind is too focused on who will fight the next war or who will screw the next person.
Right?
I'm sorry to admit this, but humans are the weakest race in the planes of existence. The only ones who truly protect you are angels.
I felt angry that she made humans sound inferior. Yeah, we had our faults, but it wasn't like any of the other races were better, right? No way humans were the inferior race. Well, we're not inferior.
Oh, you're not now.
Diana stared at me, looking up and down before smirking a bit.
Let's go on a little trip, shall we?
I raised my eyebrow. What was she on about? First she wanted to stay here. Now she wanted to go out? What was with this girl? Before I could protest, the world began to spin around me, forcing me to jump up and grab onto Diana. She held me as the room spun, practically out of control. My fear escalated, and I buried my face in her shoulder, wanting it to stop. If she was trying to prove a scary point, it was working. I felt the world slow down around me and come to a halt. I didn't want to look, but gently Diana pushed me away from her body and for me to look around. I gasped when I realized that I was in a business office. What? What's going on? Where are we?
Just a simple business office. Nothing more.
I looked around and felt an air of familiarity to the room. I couldn't figure out why, but my brain kept me aware that I knew this place somehow. I didn't get to think on it long. Suddenly a group of businessmen entered the room, stopping at the sight of Diana and me.
Who are you two?
I froze. What was going to happen? We were going to be thrown out, get in trouble. I would never be allowed out again. This was a mild nightmare. Diana's giggle stopped my thoughts. I looked to see her smirking at the group of men, a hand by her hips.
Why, do you not know who we are? For shame, for shame.
Diana guided me to a chair and sat me down before sitting at the table. I practically turned red as Diana hiked up her dress where the entire leg slipped out from the slit. She crossed her legs and tossed her hair gently.
We are your employers. This lovely lady is the CEO of the company, and I am her personal secretary. You men, however, are late.
Stop being hot. I stared at Diana as she stared down the group of men like a tigress would her prey. The group collectively began to shuffle in nervousness, surprising me. Were they really believing her lie? How? Diana smiled and lifted her legs slightly, making the men lean in for a possible panty shop. I couldn't help be both stunned and slightly jealous.
One of you needs to come over here and kiss my foot as an apology.
What? I looked at Diana's foot, feeling it gently bob in slight impatience. Was she seriously going to make one of them kiss her foot? They obviously couldn't be enthralled with her enough to stoop so low. I let my thoughts become destroyed as I watched a man step out from the group nervously, get on his knees in front of Diana. As he gently cradled her foot in his hands, I tensed and held my breath. No way. The man gently kissed Diana's foot, making an almost sultry sigh escape her lips. It sent a shiver down my spine. Diana smirked and leaned back on her hands, looking down at the man before her.
My ankle next.
Like an obedient servant, the man traveled his kiss to her ankle, as Diana let her head fall back with another sigh. Diana, what are you doing?
Proving to you how weak the human mind is.
Diana raised a hand above her and snapped her fingers, causing the group of ugly men to remained to straighten up like an army at attention. I felt myself tense and catch my breath. In response, I couldn't feel any power over me.
Water, a massage, another kiss.
With each command, a man would separate from the group and fulfill it obediently. I watched as each man became practically a slave to her whim. Diana closed her eyes and let out a pleasured hum, making my spine tingle again. For some reason, this irritated me beyond belief. Watching her be pampered by enthralled men made something crawl in my chest, something dark. I wanted it to stop. Diana and the men around her suddenly looked at me. Diana was a little surprised, but then slightly smirked.
Oh my, is someone a little jealous?
It's not that. Just stop it. You've proved your point. Diana chuckled, making me wince. Would she stop? She wasn't obedient like the boys, so who knew with her? Diana then snapped her fingers, surprising me, and forcing the men around her to huddle together where they were previously.
I have proven my point, haven't I? Oh, well. I guess I got a little carried away.
Diana ran a finger over her lower lip and giggled at my face, though. What?
You're adorable when you're jealous.
My face turned red instantly, and I covered my cheeks, glaring at Diana. She giggled again before snapping her fingers and making the room around us fade away into darkness. A mere breath later, we were back in my bedroom, with both of us on my bed. Diana stretched her arms up and smiled at me.
So, now do you understand the vulnerability of humanity?
I gritted my teeth. Humans weren't as weak as she claimed, but I could believe it. Just because we were weak didn't mean that we couldn't know about those who were supposedly more powerful than us. I glared at Diana. That justifies ignorance? How does that justify ignorance?
Ignorance is the only safety humans get to have. If humans were to know about us, do you know what kind of chaos would occur?
For once, I felt scared. Diana's eyes were cold as ice as she stared into my soul, practically giving me the frightening feeling of the future I questioned.
There are already wars in the human world being fought amongst yourselves. Equality, dominance, power. The human world is practically the image of self-chaos. Innocent blood is spilled every day in your world. Doesn't matter the color or creed you carry. You think blood is spilt now? There will be much more if humans knew about otherworldly creatures. Our existences can destroy beliefs and human logic.
I felt the world around me to go dark as I stared at Diana. Sounds of screaming and battle raged around me, but I kept my eyes to the one person I could see. Was this an illusion? Was this a trick? It didn't feel like it.
Religions would crumble and civil wars would clash. Paranoia would be a constant in every human mind. And soon armies will rise up, trying to defend humanity without true knowledge of who we are and what we can do. Vampires would be forced to retaliate and build armies of their own, and trust me, they're not as friendly as the vampires in your human fictional drabble.
Right? Gross.
Devils would have a heyday and wreak havoc, finally finding a collective weakness in the human world to exploit. Angels would have to come down and fight their devil rivals, and the human world would become their battlefield.
I could see the world Diana described flash before my eyes. I could see humans screaming and fighting each other, trying to figure out who is what and being frightful with every blink. I imagined devils like Malex, ravaging cities and killing people while soldiers tried to fight back, failing and dying at every turn. The image was scary and I didn't want to imagine it. I shook my head, holding it in both hands. Before looking to Diana, my room had returned, and Diana stared back at me. To my surprise, she had a concerned face.
The rules are to make sure that we all stay at peace. To have us all fighting at once would result in a massive cataclysm that would engulf everything and everyone, no matter what you were.
Diana finally broke away from the gaze she held on me and stared at the far wall. I could see a look of fear rush through her eyes as she looked away from me. I almost felt sorry, but my confusion covered my concern.
Demons already have enough on our collective plates. We don't need to become the backlash victims of broken ignorance.
Diana. Something in Diana's eyes made my heart almost hurt. Even though she wasn't looking at me, I could almost see all the emotions that ran in her mind just by observing her eyes. I felt bad, terrible even, for questioning her as I did. I was only human after all. However, I felt the need to comfort her. Something was going on, and Diana was holding back. Whether or not I learnt more by comforting her almost didn't matter. I felt myself gently scoot closer to Diana before laying a hand on hers. Diana stared at me for a brief moment before shaking her head frantically and shutting her eyes tightly. A soft sigh escaped her lips before she looked at me again with almost new resolve.
I'm fine.
Change the words.
I was merely trying to prove my points.
The day became filled with Diana teaching me about magic. Even when the day ended, I needed to learn more. I began to crave it. I begged Diana to stay, despite knowing our deal. Diana, despite promising to only stay one day, agreed to stay longer and tell me more. Soon, days passed by, filled with lessons and examples of magic. Knowing that I would be missed at school, Diana quickly took care of making sure I wasn't missed. Using a simple spell, as she called it, she created an illusion of me to go in my place. It was real to humans and acted just like me, but was like a ghost to demons. I kinda wish I would remember that spell. She told me of vampires, creatures that looked just like humans, with an inner hierarchy. There were 4 types of vampires, but all of them were under oath by the rule of the world not to hunt humans. It was strange, and it felt like a fictional novel, but Diana promised vampires were not like the books. They had adapted to living with humans, creating a formula that allowed them to walk around during the day. They even had a blood bank as currency and made synthetic blood to quench their thirsts. They had real blood to drink, of course, but they got it either through hospital blood drives or black market meals. It was surreal. Devils were as chaotic as Malik's was, but they were still all under the command of the very powerful fallen angel and devil king, Satan. He, however, still had the heart of an angel. He was simply sitting in hell, waiting for an opening into the human world. I hoped it would never come. Angels, on the other hand, were not as I expected. I thought of angels, I imagined beautiful human-looking creatures with wings and halos.
I still wonder who spread that rumor.
Diana explained that they looked monstrous. Each archetype of angel looked different, but Diana couldn't describe them all. The one that stood out the most was the seraphim. She described it as a mysterious creature that hid behind 3 large pairs of wings. Yeah, that sounds about right. What if the seraphim did look human?
Well, anyone who has met a seraphim and tried to find out has not lived to spill the secret.
Makes sense. I gulped. It was scary to hear that for some reason. Angels were strict and were not as forgiving as many claimed. According to Diana, they had a love-hate relationship with humans, but they didn't try to dominate us. They only became mediators for the rule of the worlds. Why not?
I'd rather not get into that.
Alright. Why?
It's not my place to talk about heaven. Only the angels.
She also mentioned their methods for memory removal. As self-proclaimed guardians of the humans, they had the right to baptize humans, who held memories of otherworldly creatures should they find any in the human world. This baptism not only erased the memories of magic, but erased their entire memory clean. Humans wouldn't remember who they were or who they knew. A blank canvas. Demons, however unlike the others, were passive, only truly cared for their own world. They had their own lands, kingdoms, lord living there. The most powerful demon in the abyssal plains, the Demon Lord. He was the incubi boy's father, and he was a ruthless man. Conquered several kingdoms with a massive, indestructible army. Many demons died under his brutality, but when he did conquer, life for demons was like a human renaissance. Many feared the land he would attack next. However, to everyone's surprise, the Demon Lord had tried to be peaceful with Diana's kingdom, as she was offered as a bride to one of his sons.